Welcome to the Barbell and Beyond podcast, where we talk to athletes, experts, and coaches about all things related to training and competing in powerlifting. We will bring you the insights and stories that will take your performance, training, and mindset to the next level.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Barbell and Beyond podcast. It is my absolute pleasure to have world-renowned powerlifting physiotherapist, Pei, on the podcast today. Welcome and thank you so much for being here. I realized the other day, we actually go years and years back. As long as I've known my son, I've known you.
Yeah.
Back in those early days that I contacted PB Physio about working with Julia. And then shortly afterwards, we had Worlds in South Africa. So we've known each other for quite a while. And I feel like we've done quite a few life things together.
Yeah, we have.
Competing at Worlds, business, and now I'm super happy for you and your husband that you are pregnant. How many weeks pregnant are you now?
I'm 24 weeks, almost 25 weeks.
Which is super exciting. And you've had another sort of milestone today. Do you want to share a little bit about your experience today?
Oh, I took a GTT test. What's the abbreviation for? It's a glucose tolerance test. So we're trying to find out if I could have gestational diabetes. And I thought it would be like super easy. And then I started feeling really dizzy and almost passing out. That was great.
Like, I can't even understand why you're still agreeing to do this podcast with me today after what you've been through just a few hours ago. But I do really appreciate you being here. And if you're happy to talk about it, you've had quite a few challenges in your life. Like, we could go way back to even when you were born. There's been challenges at every step of the way. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your backstory? Because to me, you are honestly a superhero, and I want to understand your backstory, and I want the listeners to understand how incredible you are as well.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I was born 26 and a bit weeks. I was born very preemie in Malaysia. They don't have the same technology in Malaysia as they did in Australia back then. So they pumped me full of oxygen to save my life. But because they didn't freeze my retina, because they didn't have that technology, they caused some damage to my eye. It's called retinopathy of prematurity in both eyes. So, but I am alive and everything and well. I went to normal school for my eyes because my mom refused to treat me differently and refused to which was amazing, refused to basically tell me that I couldn't do anything like anything. So I went to a normal school, and actually the baby next to me that was preemie died because he was very preemie too. And then and that's how it started. So I've been through life. My brain ignores my right eye, so I only use my left eye to see. And then when I was a teenager, I worked at my uncle's orthopedic surgery. I actually fainted on the doorknob on my right eye, but I didn't know. Oh, Kobe! But I didn't know that my retina detached. Usually, that's a medical emergency. So it took me a few months before they figured out that, well, after looking for a routine checkup, that my retina was detached. And so I pretty much then lost visual vision through that right eye. I had to go for surgery for that. So I pretty much simply rely on my left eye, which is also both eyes are highly myopic. And the eye issue is actually something that has challenged me a lot, pushed me a lot more. So the eye issue has pushed me a lot more in the sense that a lot of people have said, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that because of your eyes, or they kind of write you off or write me off. And I think that aggravated me and pushed me to be like, okay, I'll show you that I can do with one eye more than you can do with two.
Oh, I love that so much. I love that so much. That's
Yeah.
determination right there. But did you have supporters in your life as well? Did you have people who said, yes, you've got potential, yes, you can do that, yes, you can do anything you put your mind to? It sounds like your mum was one of them.
My mom was one of them, where she'd always just said she wouldn't raise me like I was anything less, but then she also had her concerns. So a lot of my family members had concerns about how I would go through life, because I want to be a doctor, I want to be a surgeon actually. And then they were like, oh, it's a lot of studying. So at some points, unknowingly, they kind of discouraged that. But and then at some point, my mom was like, no, you can do better than anyone else because you fought to survive, and and you're here. So yeah, so I did have quite a good support network in that sense. But I also had like just people unknowingly saying things that they were projecting. Yeah. And yeah, that really pushed me to be like, yeah, okay, you're wrong.
That you were able to recognize those hints or messages and distinguish them from what reality you could create for yourself. And you've been a very high achiever. So we talk about your powerlifting a little bit before we talk about PB Physio and your business. Highlights of your powerlifting career. What have been the highlights for you?
Highlights of my powerlifting career. Winning nationals in Perth was huge. It taught me something really different, because I'm that person, that mentality that thinks that the harder you work, the more you will be rewarded. To the point that sometimes it can be detrimental. But that competition, when I won nationals in Perth, I had zero expectations. I went in there not knowing, because I had just moved up a weight class, I did not expect to win at all. So I didn't know my competition. I didn't know nothing. I went in there just going, I'm just going to have fun. And I went 9 for 9 and I won. I didn't even know I won, even backstage after my husband had come up to me and said, you won. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, what are you talking about? And then it taught me something totally different about how to like manage your arousal levels, your expectations, and how sometimes you just have fun, you perform so much better. And then that's one of the highlights. Another highlight, obviously, then going to Worlds, but 2 years later, because 2020 COVID shut down Worlds. And then I guess like it's all a bit intertwined as well with my career. So I was Australia's physio when I went to Worlds, and also like in South Africa, they let me be the physio for the event.
Yeah, you were physio. I remember seeing you even in South Africa. You were competing and you were literally every nation's physio. So you were event physio.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. That must have been a lot of work. But at the same time, did you meet a lot of lifters and people? And how was that experience for you?
It was amazing. It was like bittersweet. There was things going on personally for me as well. Because I had a miscarriage 7 weeks before Worlds. I actually qualified for Worlds in that nationals. I competed pregnant. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna step away because I'm pregnant. And then just finish off nationals and step away. And then I had a miscarriage. And then I had to go for surgery to remove the ovum. And then the week later, I got COVID from the hospital. And then by then they were like, oh yeah, I want to go to Worlds. And I'm like, okay.
Which is a testament to your determination. I think every story that I know about you is a testament to your determination. From being premature baby, we didn't even go into detail about the detached retina and the recent surgeries that you've had and that entire recovery, which was massive. Then you have a miscarriage. I am so sorry that happened. I know quite a bit about your journey to get pregnant, and I felt heartbroken on your behalf every step of the way. I know what it's like to have a miscarriage and to want to have a baby. So I can totally understand that's heartbreaking. Then you get COVID, then you compete at Worlds and you become
I had
powerlifting physio.
7 weeks lead up to Worlds after the surgery, and after obviously in pregnancy you're training lighter. So yeah, 6 weeks lead up, and when I was squatting, I was peeing myself a bit because well, just had surgery in my pelvic floor. Yeah.
And that's something that you know a lot about. Obviously now you're training through your pregnancy. You're being guided by a coach who's qualified in helping people train through pregnancy and postpartum. Julia is an amazing pelvic physio.
Yeah.
So there's an entire area of physiotherapy and pelvic floor considerations that isn't very commonly spoken about, but this information is invaluable for any female athlete, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm learning so much, actually. I'm learning so much about the pelvis and breathing, the different ways of bracing. There's a lot.
I think there's a common misconception in powerlifting that there's one way to breathe and brace, but that's not the case, is it?
Nope, definitely not. I think it's called connection breathing. Yeah.
In terms of being pregnant and being at this stage of pregnancy, that was quite a journey in itself as well. Would you have any advice or words of wisdom for someone who's going through a similar fertility journey?
I would say one of the things that you're gonna find I found really hard to do was to not blame myself, because I couldn't. My job involves always finding answers, and I was down this rabbit hole trying to figure out why or what the issue is. Seeing as I was like, okay, I'm pretty healthy. I exercise regularly. I eat well, and I just didn't understand what it was. And sometimes you just one of the doctors had said sometimes it's not science, which was so frustrating for me to hear. I'm like, you're a doctor, damn it. Sometimes it's not science. Sometimes it's just a combination of everything in one. And I'm like, now when at this point in time, I kind of understand it a lot more, because when I felt pregnant and I had a miscarriage, I felt pregnant really fast, and then nothing happened for ages. But now when I look back in hindsight, I realized that period of nothing happening was when my eyes started deteriorating, and it took me years to almost a year to find out what was actually wrong with my eye. So I was legally blind then. And then all these surgeries. So my body would never have been able to handle that and a pregnancy. Although I was really stubborn about it and kept trying to do IPF along with it, which I wouldn't recommend. But now, when in this point in time, I've realized, okay, there was a time and place for everything. Like I could have, but somehow my body just knew that I could not be pregnant then. So I'm just like, and I'm not the type that is very into leaving it up to the universe or God or whatever. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, I am learning. Yeah.
But like you said, it's all kind of aligned and happened at the right time in a way that now makes sense in hindsight, like no pun intended.
So especially if they don't give you an answer to what's wrong. So there was no answer to any fertility problems. So it's like, oh, fine, I get it. Yeah.
I think there's a question that everyone would like to know if they haven't worked with you already. Having spent a year legally blind and being able to see out of one eye, how do you practice physiotherapy the way that you do?
I have no idea. I'm just obsessed. So when I got legally blind with the left eye, because my right eye is already legally blind, my right eye could actually see a little bit better than my left eye then. And to give you context, my right eye can only see the biggest word on the test for the eye test, the biggest word. And for some reason, I could just see movement enough to do those online consults. So Carlina actually met me when I first treated her. The months I treated her up to Sheffield, I was legally blind.
Wow.
So
and you guys achieved amazing results together. It's not
yeah.
been a limiting factor in any way, shape, or form, which brings me to the next question. And if you're happy to use Carlina or somebody else as a bit of an example, I remember you saying once, you're paying me for my brain, not for my hands. So online physio works super, super well. It is relatively new. There's not a lot of online physio happening, but you've really made a name and a brand for yourself by doing it particularly well and working with some of the top powerlifting athletes and a whole range of powerlifting athletes all over the world. So how did you come up with that idea? Where did that come from? And how did you develop that skill set?
So basically, I had to come up with the idea. So a year before lockdown, I had Nathan, Tennis, a few people reached out to me, and Nathan being the first one saying, I can't find someone to help me in Melbourne. Can you please help me? And May, Adonis Athletics, the owner, had gone to me, Pei, you can do this. And I'm like, what do you mean I can do this? There's no such thing as online consults. So I was like, you know what, I'll give it a go. Because my husband was like, you've done it with your friends. And I'm like, okay, that's different, but let's give it a go. So I gave it a go and I started treating him online. And then someone else referred and I started treating them online. I'm like, oh my God, this is a thing. So it was just off Messenger, like a Messenger chat. And then what happens is I started building a little bit more of a base like that. And then so did Julia. And then I asked Julia to start trying it and she did. So both of us were treating online and then lockdown hit, COVID hit. And so COVID hit.
It was before lockdown and COVID. You were just like slightly ahead of the game.
Yes, it was about a year and a half before. And that I remember it was specifically one person which was trying to claim his consult, his online physio consult with his health fund. And the health fund had said there's no such thing as online physio. And a few weeks later, when lockdown hit, they were like, yeah, you can claim online.
Oh, wow. Brilliant.
So
but by that time, you were set up. You already knew what you were doing. You had some system.
Yeah, exactly. We had a rough idea of what we're doing, but then we're like, oh shit, lockdown hit. Every physio was freaking about the job being completely obsolete because back then it was just like ridiculous times when no one knew what was happening. And I was like, how am I going to save this company? Every company is dropping like flies. Like every company is dropping like flies and closing down. So I was like, I remember sitting on my couch thinking, trying to figure it out. And then I was like, oh, I've got an idea. So I'm like, I know what to do. And I was like, told my husband, come with me. We went in front of the logo and I started just filming 10 videos and like a whole 10 video series on how to do an online consult. Because I was like, how do I help people, the company, but how do I also help physios so the physios, the occupation doesn't become obsolete? I know I'll teach people online for free how to do an online consult. But at the same time, because I'm teaching it and I look like the teacher, then people that do not want to do online consults will be sold on that idea because I already have a small reputation in it. So I started then promoting it, putting it out there, and it went crazy. Like people just, yes, we didn't have the in-person, we had some in-person, but we got everyone from all these different states and then all these different countries booking in with us. And then all these physios watching how we do that. So they do it. So then because of that, after lockdown, we actually profited through once we came out of lockdown. The whole company like had a massive boom because of it, because then the in-person patients came back and we had to hire.
And you had both. Yeah.
And then we had to hire two new physios. We renovated the upstairs to become a clinic space and we expanded through lockdown.
This is a fantastic story, And I didn't know
Yeah.
the part about you teaching other physiotherapists
Yeah.
how to do online consults, which I just think is amazing, and another credit to you, just helping the industry in general. I have a quick question. We'll go back to PB Physio and the business, but how did you initially get into powerlifting? How did you start?
Okay, so they're all these stories are very intertwined. So I started when I was a physio. I started off as a physio in just a Gen Pop clinic, and I met a friend. His name's Nick. He was doing exercise physiology, and he was doing powerlifting. And I was like, I want to get stronger for my job. And he's like, let's do powerlifting. And I'm like, okay. So he started showing me how to do powerlifting. And I'm like, man, I love this. And then he said, let's head up to our first comp. So heading up to my first comp, I got pneumonia. and to be, I kept trying to keep training, which was dumb. And I got sicker and sicker. Anyway, then I was like, okay, let's head up to another comp and rebuild. So, which was my first comp. And then about 6 days out, when I was squatting, I kind of fell forward, and then I hurt my back. And then I couldn't lift anything. Like I couldn't even lift 20 kilos, couldn't bend. And I just was like, no, I really want to make the qualifying total for nationals. Don't do this. It's not smart, but I did it anyway. I went to the doctor. I asked for Mobic, and I went and competed for in the comp to make the qualifying total.
Wow.
And
Oh my goodness.
I took 1 token squat, 1 token deadlift. I did all my benches, and then after that, I could not bend at all.
There is a common misconception, I think, that if you hurt your back lifting under load or hurt your back at all, I spoke to actually one athlete that you've worked a lot with who's had an amazing recovery, Brooke. We were speaking about this earlier today. And there's the misconception that if you hurt your back doing any activity or lifting, that's like game over, career over.
Yes.
And both Brooke and I are like, absolutely not. But the common misconception out there is that that's it. Stop lifting, stop doing anything.
So pretty much that was how it happened. So I couldn't move well. And then I was like, don't worry, I'll rehab it. And then I tried rehabbing it, but I couldn't get back to more than 30 kilos. And I had all these people around me, all these physios, my boss insisting that I stop lifting. And I'm like, I don't want to. And I even tried it for a few months and it didn't get better. And I'm like, this is stupid. So I started training again. And my boss, a friend of mine, she was nice. She just said something that like really triggered me. She said, what would a good physio do? As in implying that you're being a really bad physio for not stopping lifting. So I was like, okay, I'll prove you wrong. And then that like sparked everything.
And the conversation has changed, right? Like what would a good physio do now?
Yes.
A good physio would work with you to achieve your goal, which is your goal was to keep lifting. That's I think sometimes practitioners miss the point that the goal for treatment isn't their goal. It's the person in front of you. It's the patient and the athlete. We have to work towards what they want.
Yes, 100%. So that was pretty much how I went and obsessed over it just to prove people wrong again. And I started treating people out of my 1-bedroom apartment for free. I had a friend that I just met on Instagram, told her to come get treated by me in my 1-bedroom apartment. And then I just started like going to different physios, trying to learn from all these different physios. I actually did see Andrew Locke once as well, or twice. He helped me a lot. He actually recommended that I became specialized in physio. And he was like, you should be the glute physio. And I said to him, I'll be the powerlifting physio. And that's how I started.
Wow. Okay. So that's the story behind the name. So you became the powerlifting physio, the physio that athletes could come to who love lifting, and they could get treatment by you and return to doing the thing that they love. And this is something that over, I think, 4 or 5 years that I've known you, I have absolute confidence sending my athletes to you if they have
Oh,
something.
thank you.
And we've had Brooke and we've had Izzy with back issues, and they have gone through the rehabilitation process with you, and they've come out the other side mentally and physically stronger, more educated, confident. They're not fearful of lifting. They feel strong, confident, resilient. Like, and I love that. I love that. And that's why it's one of the reasons I feel so confident sending people to you, because you don't tell them to stop what they're doing. You find a intelligent way to get them to gradually rehabilitate back to doing the activity that they love. So I'm really grateful to you for that, because my athletes being able to enjoy their life and lifting means the world to me. So I'm so grateful.
Thank you. I think you're an amazing coach as well. Like the programs that they show me, I'm just like, wow, Carli just cares so much about her lifters. It's great.
We do care a lot, and I love that you use the word obsessed in a positive way, because I think to become really good at your craft, you have to be obsessed. You're kind of thinking about this stuff all the time. You're thinking about what can I do next? What can I learn? How can I help this person? What do they need? It's like obsession, but like in the best possible way.
Yeah, it's better than being obsessed with drugs.
100%, positive obsession. So that was a common question from a lot of people. They wanted to know how you developed your philosophy around the physiotherapy. And we've got kind of the grassroots. So some of your influences, some things that motivated you, the things that people said. Are there any other things that have shaped the way that you do your physiotherapy? In a lot of ways, it's quite unique, but are there any other things that help shape what you do and how you do it and why you do it?
So it was pretty much, I was driven by a passion because I then realized, hey, when I was looking for physios to treat me, there was not many. And there was barely any. There was only it was only Andrew Locke that back then that encouraged it. So I then was like, hey, there's a huge need, gap in the market. And it is quite upsetting that I see elite lifters, elite athletes, not just powerlifters, retiring because of an injury, not on their own terms. So that's what the company's mission is, to stop athletes retiring due to injury, but on their own terms.
Wow, that's incredibly powerful. I don't know if you know this, but I retired from my first sport not under my own terms. So hearing you say that, just tugs at my heartstrings. I was the current world champion. I had spent 17 years dedicated, obsessed with the sport, only to be told there is no way that you will ever do this again. You have to retire. And I was devastated.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're helping
pretty much
prevent
what
that,
we want to stop. Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty much when I was like, I don't want anyone to feel the way I feel, because I felt I had to figure it out for a year, and I was so depressed about it, and not being able to go back to powerlifting. So I was like, I can only imagine if I've just started quite recently, what an athlete that's dedicated their whole life to a sport, and then just can't help you because don't really care about learning about your movements. And so that really drove me. And the people in the company as well, they all have the same experiences. We want people that are athletes, that know how their body feels and know how devastated they would feel if they were told to quit because of an injury. So I try to hire people like that.
Which is that was one of my questions later on, was your criteria for hiring team members. So I like that you've answered that. They have to have that same belief and that same core value that we can help return people to doing the thing that they love, which you've proven time and time again. You've proven that you can, through physiotherapy and rehabilitation, people can return to their best ever performances and exceed their previous performance, because they come out better athletes, more well-rounded. So you have some specific physiotherapy philosophies that I love. And one of them, you often talk about powerlifting is a sport, and athletes become highly specialized. And one of the keys to keep them healthy is what? Can you tell us more?
Okay, so I actually believe this in all sport. So I also treat start treating powerlifters first, but I also treat a range of different sports. I don't really advertise as much, but like diving, Olympians in diving, Olympic weightlifting, strongman, gymnastics, ice skating, jiu-jitsu, just random sports. And I just find the same kind of thing that keeps repeating amongst all athletes is that I call it a over specialization, like a spectrum. So think of it as like a spectrum of when you first start as a novice, your goal is to get as good as possible in the sport and learn that movement as much as possible. Yeah. So you're gonna can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yep.
The battery just said it was low. All right. So you're gonna learn as much of the same movement over and over again until you become really good at it. Yes. So through that, you're going to be practicing the same movement over and over again. So the same muscles are going to be worked over and over again. Once you slowly go into the specialized area, when you become over specialized, your muscles will almost overly go into that direction. So if you're thinking of a bicep curl, if I only train bicep curl, eventually I'll end up in this position where I'm flexed. And the only way I can curl anymore is to relax. If you do that in powerlifting and you relax, you lose your position, or you lose your ability to hold your tension. Yeah. And if you are constantly, let's say, flexing your bicep, if you hold that for a long time, it hurts. So the only way you can get your bicep stronger is if you strengthen your tricep, which is the opposing muscle of that sport, right? So, and then you can get a bigger bicep and you can get stronger bicep curl, right? So it's the same across all these movements. So like in diving, if they keep only turning one way, that's fine because that's a sport, but you need to train the opposite direction. Otherwise, joints do not like being at end range. So if you pull your finger back as far as you can, and that's your joint being at end range, it will start hurting. So if you are so far back, let's say in powerlifting, you're using your lower back so much, you're so far extended, your joint is going to get stuck and jammed in that position, and that's how you get pain. Yeah. So in terms of powerlifting, the accessories or the programming outside of comp should be encouraging other movements. That's why powerlifters that go into gymnastics, or weightlifters that go into gymnastics, tend to suddenly feel better in their body because it's almost the opposing movement.
It's so true. I used to love, after an intense powerlifting prep, I'd always go back to the gymnastics and CrossFit, and I had a fantastic gymnastics coach. Mark Holyoke in Auckland is next level, and I was so healthy and strong and balanced. And a recent regret that I have is that I haven't had time to do that, and I've done that my entire powerlifting career. So getting muscles through full range of motion, working opposing muscles, getting out of powerlifting specific shapes and practicing the opposite shapes. So for the coaches and athletes listening to this should be structured regularly into their program. Is that sort of what you would recommend?
Yeah. So let's say the longer you are in powerlifting, that's how you structure. The longer you're in powerlifting, as you head up to comp, like worlds now, the longer they are in powerlifting, I would already suggest in their accessories to have movements that take them out, because the longer you've been in powerlifting, those muscles are so much stronger. So you just got to take them out of it so they can keep loading it and keep peaking. But it's also contextual. It depends on that athlete. Or if you are if you're out of competition, don't go straight to SBD again, because that's how injuries happen. So that the suggestion would always be at least include 2 or 3 things in your programming that will take them out of those positions.
Would you give us a couple of examples, maybe a couple for squat, bench, and deadlift, some of your most commonly used ones or favorites?
All right. So if you think about the deadlift, eventually people use a lot of their lower back extensors. So most powerlifters are quite anteriorly tilted. There's nothing wrong with being anterior tilted if you can get out of it, but most of them can't, right? So if they're very anteriorly tilted, their base of support is pushed forward onto their toes. So it's like you're in high heels. Your quads are really strong. Your back extensors are really strong. Your pelvis is tilted anteriorly because of that movement. So then from that plane, you'd give exercises that posterior tilt the pelvis. So your hamstrings, your glutes, your core are the ones that posterior tilt your pelvis. So you start by giving some sort of hamstring exercise from the knee, and then so that they can posterior tilt the pelvis. So like what I gave you was a simple like 90-90 bridge, and you felt like your hamstring's about to cramp.
I love the progression. I love the latest progression you've given me, where I not only have to hold my hamstrings, but I have to also move through the range of motion and rotate. I think the rotation tipped me over the edge, which we'll talk about next. We'll talk a little bit about rotation next, but just to give a few more examples. So the aim of the game is to get the athlete into a posterior pelvic tilt to engage hamstrings
and rectus abdominis, anterior core from that plane. So then from the side plane, from the other plane, you also have to consider powerlifters do not rotate, because obviously if we rotate, we lose position, right? But we need to rotate in order to hold those positions. So our obliques actually hold our ribs down. Our obliques are rotation muscle. So if we don't learn how to rotate, our ribs come up and we actually lose the stack position. So we have, like, programming wise, sit up, oblique, what was that called? Oblique sit-ups, where you crunch up and you rotate.
Like a twist,
a twist. Or like, but you have to also understand that these exercises, it has to be hypertrophy. It has to be like a bodybuilding kind of exercise where people put attention to it. But you also have to understand that the amount you're lifting might still not be enough for the amount you're lifting. So sometimes cueing the squat in certain ways or the deadlift in certain ways, when you become too extended, is also beneficial. So there are people that are too extended. You'd actually cue them in a way not to be in a bit more flexion, but that doesn't mean end range flexion. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just to balance it out, just to get the middle ground,
to find neutral. Yeah.
100%. So we've kind of covered deadlifts and squats a little bit. What about bench press? It's an interesting one.
All right, so bench press is almost the opposite shape of squat. So in squat, which what people really don't realize, and this is something actually Izzy taught me, Isabella von Weisenberg, she coached me for a bit, and it's one of the things that changed my squat a lot, because she coached. She said that when you're ascending in your squat, stop lifting your chest up and opening your ribs, because you're not using your legs. And she's like, you almost fight the bar where you stop it from extending you, right? So that's more of like a crunch, and your ribs are pulled down and held down so that you use your legs.
So you can use it. That's a great cue. That's a great way of thinking about it. I was talking about that exact thing with an athlete earlier today over in Fiji, that he's finally learned how to use his legs for squatting. He was like, I never felt my legs before. So,
exactly. And then the bench is the complete opposite movement. Your ribs need to be up, flat. The air when you're bracing needs to be up through here to open up the ribs. But then the squat is, pulled down, the air needs to be down. So that's why usually when people go like, oh my God, my bench is exploding, oh, my squat feels funny, and vice versa.
Is that why? It's just like that meme you see on Instagram where the 3 levers keep moving. You can never have all 3 levers at the same time. But it's true. It's because they're opposite shapes, to go from one shape to the other shape. Now, I know that you have a little bit of a philosophy as well, that sometimes you can prime the next day's movement. You can do something the day before that will then get a lift or a shape moving and feeling better.
Yeah.
Can you give us maybe some examples of that?
Yeah, so there are two variations of that. So one, it depends on the athlete, like and how they do their accessories. One, you can prime the body to get into the shape you want. So let's say if Tuesday is primary bench day, and Monday after the lifts, the accessories I would give anything that will pull their rib cage up. So let's say like a lat pull down with your chest up, like with a mag grip, and then chest up and then pulling from there. You can do like single, anything that will bring that chest higher and use the lower traps. Is then the next day your body will be more open and then your bench will feel much better. Yeah,
I think people are going to love that idea, the fact that they could do something the day before to then make their lift show up and feel better at their, on the primary day. I think that's an awesome concept for people to take into their lifting. So we've got a couple.
Yeah.
The first is muscles in full range of motion, working opposite shapes. The more specialized you are, the more you need to pull yourself out of specialized shapes. We've got rotation. We've got priming. So those are some incredible concepts. Are there any other sort of pillars that your treatment and therapy sort of relies on? Anything else that we haven't talked about yet?
So with the priming as well, I'd say sometimes I give them primer exercises before they do their lifts, just so they can feel it, and it's low level. And the other concept I honestly think would be, people don't place enough emphasis on mobility. If you can't get the range, you can't control that range. So like, especially in rehab, people tend to say, oh yeah, but I go to the gym and my body, I go to the gym to do these exercises, and yet I don't have that range. Like, yet I can't get there. So do I just rehab it with these exercises? And the reason why we do like manual therapy, or we put like some attention to, massages and releases, etc., is because it is just a way more effective way to get range that you didn't have, and then capture that range with exercises. Because if you're trying to do an exercise to get into that range, it is a lot harder to get there.
Would you say that powerlifters in general, we don't need a massive amount of range of motion to get into most of our powerlifting shapes? Do you think powerlifters should have more range of motion than the shapes that they execute in training? Should we have a little bit of a buffer?
100%, yes. Because if you think about it, the more movement options you have, the more you can get out of the positions. As your movement options start reducing and getting less and less, you have way less room for error, because you only can move, 1 centimeter left, 1 centimeter right, and then you're at your end range, and then you get hurt. Yeah. So the more movement options you have outside of, the more options you have in general, you won't feel floppy, if that's what most people think. You'll have control over that range because you're practicing technique constantly. But you have these, especially at the third attempt, you'll go out of position, and your body can handle that because it has strength through that movement. You're not going to lose strength being floppy, because you still have control over those ranges.
Over that range. Yeah, that makes so much sense. That makes a lot of sense. Now, you've made a huge effort as a physiotherapist to work better with athletes and better with coaches. So this is another thing that I love about you, is that your communication with coaches is really great. Your communication and your relationship and rapport building with athletes is excellent. So I want to give you the opposite question. What do you think athletes could do better to work with their physiotherapists, and what do you think coaches could do better to work with their physiotherapists?
And to athletes to work better with their physio, it would be open. Because be open-minded, and also like just try not to just rush through your exercise because they're rehab exercises. The reason why you were in rehab in the first place was because you rushed through those movements, and now you're so weak at the movements that you got hurt. So rushing through those exercises, not placing emphasis in those movements, that
emphasis
what
and
you're
importance.
yes, exactly. What you're doing is actually going to help you in your performance. Although it does not look anything like a squat and bench or deadlift yet, it transfers across to you to building a better performance, because those are your weakest links. That's why you got hurt.
I think
in terms of,
even the explanations that you've given in this podcast, I think is going to connect some of the dots for a lot of people. And we need their buy-in, right? Like you said, if someone comes in with a closed mind and they weren't doing their rehab before, they're not too interested in doing it now. They just want the quick fix or to get better. It's like we have to help them to understand how rehabilitation works.
Yeah. So our first initial consult with patients, usually, or athletes, we literally spend most of our time educating and getting the buy-in, because if we don't get the buy-in, no matter if I give you the complete correct exercises and you go through them and you don't actually understand the purpose of it, it doesn't work. So we actually really sit down and try and write your goals down. Try and understand the personality you have. We actually have a little note. We have notes that of like your personality in our note.
Oh no! What does it say under mine?
So in terms of we do like a quick and like dirty like personality thing where there's like, it's like a bird. Have you heard of the bird personality? And we'll just write that, but then we'll write little things underneath. And if we know that we still don't have that buy-in, we actually still try and talk more and try and explain more versus give those exercises, because that's what I find that most physios tend to. They just want to do the fancy stuff. It's not about the fancy stuff. We tell every athlete, elite or beginner, this whole week for these 2 sessions, you have to go through the boring stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the fundamentals. And you asked in terms of coaches, how can coaches help us? I would say, yes, one, openness, because some coaches do get a bit like, I don't know, they get a bit upset kind of thing that you might be suggesting accessories. So we actually then have to get the buy-in of the coach as well.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing would be, I think you do this really well though, responding to our emails. I mean, it's like 20% or 30% of coaches that respond to our emails that we write.
Well, I love that you email me, because in New Zealand that's not very common, and I've tried to think about why that might be. And I think probably the way the system is set up in New Zealand, your physio consults tend to be quite short, and physios are so busy going through patients or clients that they normally don't have time to send notes. That's not commonly done. It's the exception, not the rule. And I know that your consults are a lot longer, and you send the exercises and the notes, and make sure that we sort of understand in context what we're all trying to do here, which it feels like teamwork, and I absolutely love it. It feels like teamwork, and it's great.
That's what we try to do. I don't think it's the fault of like physios in New Zealand or Australia as well, because the physio industry is actually quite a hard industry in the sense that we are health professionals, but compared to like doctors, we charge a lot less. We have a lot less of a so in terms of like with physio companies trying to make profit, it's quite tricky, especially with long consults in general. But also at the same time, because they're trying not to go under, they try and reduce their consult times, plus they try to reduce the consult times, as well as they don't have the proper systems or structures that they're taught. Not many physios companies put physios through like a induction program or anything like that. They just put them in a room. So it's actually quite sad in terms of the physio industry. It's quite a tricky industry to be in, because physios do demand a certain amount of salary. But then the consult itself, there's a price cap because everyone is trying to basically fight for the lowest price to get patients in. So it's a bit tricky.
It definitely sounds challenging, and it goes across a lot of health industries that you have to get the numbers through to make the certain quota. And this brings me to another area that I really wanted to talk to you about, because you're an amazing business owner. So not only have you got the side of you're a great physiotherapist with an amazing reputation, literally helping athletes left, right, and center, but you have the business practice as well, and you've got a big vision and goals for PB Physio, where you didn't learn the business skills at physiotherapy school, did you? So what has that been like? Did you have a mentor? Was it a bit of trial and error? Are you self-taught? Like, tell us a little bit more about how you set up the business. Like, why did you even go into solo practice to start with rather than joining an existing practice?
So I was actually in a different practice. I was the clinic. I was leading the clinic, and I grew it from like 2-3 people to like 11. And I was actually going to buy into the clinic to open another practice under them. But then I felt like our values in terms of our vision wasn't really aligned, because the a few people in that clinic didn't like that I treated athletes. But two, also I felt like the consult times of 20 minutes was way too short for treating athletes. So I learned a lot from managing there, because I was actually left to my own devices. So I just learned from it there. And then I don't know if this is a thing, but my parents own a company, and I used to just, as a kid, they used to work from like 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night. And I just used to sit at the company and just watch interactions and things. And then also Bocca, my husband, is just a lot more of I'm like execution, and he's like big rainbow goals.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So he like really encouraged, because I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but he really encouraged me to just do it. And like, I don't know, he has this ridiculous you've spoken to him before, and how he has this ridiculous belief in people. And
That
it
sounds like a great partnership, and again, very complementary to have that bigger picture, and you being so good at taking action and execution. So I know that you have some goals coming up. You have a mentorship program coming up for low back specifically. You've now got school where coaches and physiotherapists can get more education about injury rehabilitation and prevention. What other goals do you have for PB Physio and for the education side of things and the business side of things?
So basically, PB Physio, we're trying to open the really big crazy goal that I have is, I realize that in the health industry, especially in physio, the lifespan is very short, and because of all the challenges I had mentioned. And I really want to change the idea behind the general population's idea behind how malleable your body is, because the information getting out there is just not, I just don't agree with it. Like, your body is so much more robust than people give it credit for, but there's just not much information out there. So the big goal is to change the health industry to make people realize that your musculoskeletally anyway, your body is so much more robust, and that there's so much more connections than people think there are in your body. So, and how we're going to do that? One, we're going to build more practices, and then two, keep educating people in different ways and educating. I actually didn't realize how much we are known in unis until I went into them, and I was like, oh, this is a great platform to teach physios that are up and coming. And that's also why I started that school. I'm not very good at the computer side of things, but I'm learning. And then I had so many people constantly asking me for mentorship that I think I'm going to go down that path. And always have this like real fear of stepping away from treating. But I think eventually I will have to do that a bit, take a step back, charge a more premium price so that I can teach physios in the company and keep these systems and the standard really good so that I can keep expanding. Because we do want to open another clinic next year. And we do want, well, the goal is 10 clinics in 10 years, we'll see. And then, I don't know, a bit scared when I say that. And then also a whole side of it where we're just teaching health professionals, coaches, on how to excel and how to advance their skill and stay in the occupation. Because do you know what the average lifespan of a physio is?
I don't know, but tell me.
It's 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. After studying for a significant number of years.
Yeah. It's starting to reduce as well. Yeah.
It's a big time and financial investment. And I imagine similar to coaching, people go into physiotherapy because they want to help people. And then they feel burnt out because the system is not what they imagined. And it's so tough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that we're constantly battling. Something I'm constantly trying to figure out. Yeah.
We have a similar issue in coaching where most people come out with a degree in coaching or sport and exercise science or a certificate in personal training. And I think the average lifespan of a personal trainer is actually months.
Yeah.
It's not even a year. And it's like, wow, these people that we're not short of coaches and we're not short of people, who need to get fit and exercise and feel good and healthy in their bodies, right? Like when we can help. There's so many people that need help in terms of the exercise and health industry. And yet the professionals that are coming through burn out so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So huge mission, get people moving, keep people healthy, keep people doing the things that they love.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully we'll see. And then put a baby in the mix and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I did kind of want to ask about that. I was like a little bit curious what your plans are when you have a baby, because it's a lot. It's the best thing ever, but it's a lot.
I'm going in completely ignorant right now, but in my brain, I would go back to some sort of work capacity in the next 2.5 months or 3 months after birth. And yeah, so that had me, all these plans had me like really thinking, like I need to, I've always had this thing where I did not want to be more price premium than my therapist, but it's almost to the point that I really need to, because I'm not helping the company anymore by having the same price point. So the first thing I would probably do is I'm setting up the mentorship, because I'm going to start teaching in mentorship programs and charging people for it, like students or whatever. And then
the first one starts in August. And how many people can you take? What's it
I'm
about?
going to take 10. I'm going to take 10. It's lower back rehab, literally lower back rehab, from how you communicate. So this is for new grads as well as first, second year health professionals, even coaches, how you communicate to get buy-in and goals of people, how you then assess objectively. This is all lower back for now, and then eventually it'll go to neck and everything. Assess what you see, how you assess it, how you combine the kinetic chains together, how you assess the lower back, how you treat it with manual therapy, massage or ball, whatever, and then how you then add exercise prescription to it. So that will be one of the branches that I'll go back to first, as after my maternity leave, and then online consults. But I'm still working on it. We'll see. Yeah, and then I'm gonna start training. Yeah.
Something that I did that might be a helpful tip for you. I remember before Sasha was born, I just contacted a lot of coaches who were in a similar position to me, and I asked them what did they do and what were their strategies to try and get a little bit of an idea of what it would be like. I think I remember talking to Meg Scanlon, for example, who just had her twins a little bit prior. So that might be helpful if there's anyone.
Oh my gosh, yeah, great.
In a similar position.
Expect a DM.
I also remember being, I think I was 2 days post-surgery in hospital when I opened my laptop. You know, like it's so conflicting. It's like being a coach, you don't really get time off or to switch off. And I remember 2 days postpartum, laptop open, and at 3 weeks I was at a local meet. I was at a competition.
That is hilarious.
Which is terrible. Like looking back, I'm like, what was I thinking? I couldn't even lift a plate. I couldn't even load the bar because I had no core strength. I was like, why am I here? I can't even lift this plate. I shouldn't be here. But you don't know. You don't know.
I could totally see myself doing that.
Yeah, but
I had a chat with like a trauma surgeon, and she was like 6 weeks, and I was back to surgery. I'm like, holy! I was like, okay, that's 6 weeks is the guideline.
Maybe the best question to ask people is, what did you do? And if you were pregnant again or having a baby again, what would you do differently?
Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll ask them that.
Maybe.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yep. Sound is fine. I've got a few more questions for you. This is from your fan club. They want to know, what is the meal that you most want to eat that you haven't eaten yet?
What is the meal I most want to eat that I haven't eaten yet?
What have you not tried yet? I feel like Pei eats everything. You've tried everything.
Yes, I literally eat everything. Every time I want something, I'll just go order it and eat it. What is the meal that I have not eaten yet? There's no answer to that. I just order it anyway.
There's nothing you can think of you haven't tried yet. What about say a cuisine from a particular country? Is there a country you haven't visited yet that you want to visit?
You know what? I haven't, like, I was meant to do a Euro trip in June, but because of all the surgeries that I had last year, I couldn't do it. So I don't know what meal. Maybe blood sausages.
Okay, so we've got a European trip on the cards, and you wanna taste European sausages, blood sausages.
Yeah.
I think Spain is somewhere you can get those. And New Zealand is on the cards, but not in winter. It has to be in summer.
I've gone to New Zealand 3 times. I love that country.
We want you back, but I know that the cold weather of July put you off, and you're like, I'm not coming in July. But maybe summertime would be a good time to visit.
Yeah.
Like this has just been an amazing conversation. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you on so many levels. I just want to tell people how amazing you are. When I hurt myself at nationals, I hurt my back. I literally couldn't move or push off the floor. I was like stuck, and I called you, and we were able to have a consult the following morning, and you have no idea how much that means to me. You're an incredible role model, inspiring physio, business person. So that's from the physiotherapy side. But when my son was born, you also sent me the most beautiful book, and I'll never forget that. And so you're also a really important person in my life, and you've been a great friend over the last couple of years, and I appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm back at you. You've
thank you.
Helped me through a really, really rough time the past 2 years of my surgeries and everything. Yeah.
I love seeing you come out the other side. You are such a fighter. You are so determined, relentless, obsessed, and such an incredible fighter. It's great to see you where you are now.
Thank you, Carli.
If people want to connect with you, or if they would like to work with you or PB Physio, where can they find you?
You can find us on our Instagram at PB Physio. My personal account is at Powerlifting Physio, Powerlifting_Physio. And you can reach out to us there. If you look at our link trees as well, you'll see our school link, which I can't remember the name of. Then you can you can start following because I'm putting more and more information of mentoring and everything on that. Yeah.
Absolutely love that you are teaching the next generation of physiotherapists, but also coaches and athletes. I am super excited to have you on our mentorship later on this year. I can't wait. We'll have to get the timing right, not around baby due date time. So I'm really excited about that.
Baby due date time.
What's that? Sorry?
September 10th is the is when the baby is going to come out.
Which again is super exciting, and I hope you and I will have some great chats before and after baby arrives. I will put your contact details in the show notes as well. So if you want to refer back to the notes from today's podcast, we'll have Pei's contact details there. And I want to thank you again for being on the podcast and for everything that you do for the powerlifting community and for physiotherapy community. And yeah, I'm super excited to see what else happens in the future.
Me too. Thank you so much, Carli.
Thank you.
For the highest quality, personalized online coaching that will see you achieving your best powerlifting results, book a call with one of our expert coaches at Barbell and Beyond. We specialize in competition prep, nutrition for powerlifting, and helping you develop an elite athlete mindset. All of that and more can be found over at barbellandbeyond.online.